Welcome to the Better Together podcast, where we look for ways we can work together to advance the cause of Christ among Free Will Baptists and around the world. And today we have Mr. Bill Evans. He is the former director of the Free Will Baptist Board of Retirement. He was there as the director from 1993 to 2005. And by the time he left the Board of Retirement, the funds were up, was it to like $30 million? Mr. Bill, that was the case?
Something like that. Mm-hmm.
So you saw like there was 9 million, I think, in retirement, 9 million in the foundation, and
no. Only 900,000 in the foundation.
Oh, wow. Only 900,000 in the foundation. Yeah. And so by the time you left, it had gotten up to this figure of over $30 million.
Yes.
So that shows us a little bit about what we want to talk about today. And today we want to talk about the value of saving money, the value of trust or endowments, which you've had some work in. And I want to start out by a quote from some time back from you. It says, endowments are one of the best ways for small gifts to make a big impact. So somewhere along the way, back in I think 1981, some of our folks came together and set up what was then called the Cooperative Trust. Today it's called the Better Together, or it's called the Together Way Trust. And the directors, we should say this to our listeners of the National Association of Free Will Baptists, have set as a goal to have $5 million raised in that trust. And so we had talked about this and we thought, who better to speak to this issue than Brother Bill Evans, looking at his past history and how he's felt about trust or endowments. And so, Brother Bill, tell us a little bit about how all this works and why it's so important and so valuable to the kingdom of the Lord.
Well, one of the things that I think we have to keep in mind, Brother Eddie, is that we have been a denomination founded in the rural areas. We built our base in the rural areas and slowly moved into town. And as a result of that, our funding base changed. We went from annual income on the farm to hourly income in the city. And that makes a significant difference as to how we fund things. So we've had a denomination that believed in tithing. Now, I don't know how much of that we have preached now, because there's a lot of our people do not tithe, but a few do, and that is the biblical base of our giving program. As a result of that, we have been immediate gift oriented. We think that offering plate passing bys is the best way to do it. Now, I'm not disparaging that. I think it is still God's plan and God's way. But as we develop in our programs, in our world, there are different ways to do things. And some of them are improvements. We'll never improve on tithing. But tithing is not the only way we give. We also believe in giving gifts above and beyond tithes. And we have arranged with the foundation to have a vehicle that challenges us with those various options. Now, I remember the board meeting. I being the chairman of the Board of Retirement, I was on the board, the general board at the National, when we adopted the foundation. Wow. And when it was proposed to the general board, as you know how that goes, everything comes there first and then goes to the floor. Well, when we proposed it, I heard several of my friends sitting a row or two behind me say, "Oh, that's just a power base. That's just somebody going to have a power base." Well, it is not a power base. It is an option for our people to multiply the way they can give. And so this Together Way Trust is a program, an idea to bring together all kinds of gifts, some small and some large, but combine them together and give them the opportunity to fund our program in the years to come. I don't mean totally underwrite it. I mean just to add some benefit to it. in the years to come.
That's great. So we think about immediate giving. So we're trying to send a missionary to the field. We're trying to meet needs and throughout the denomination. What happens with this kind of giving is there's a certain amount that you can almost depend on. And so like directors aren't having to raise that particular amount of money. People may not understand the whole idea of a trust or an endowment. What is it that makes that different than like I give X amount of money to missions or the executive office? How is it different when it's put in an endowment, put in a trust?
Okay. Well, an endowment is set up and established with an identity. It's like a strong box. I'm almost hesitant to use that.
I know, but it's the truth, though, in this case.
It is. It is. You put it in there, and then it is invested to work and turn a return to the beneficiaries as listed on the trust agreement, the endowment trust agreement. The beauty about a Together-Way trust is that every year the national comes together and decides how the Together-Way funds will be allocated. So there is an annual updating of recognizing needs in ministries, in ministry areas. If we try to set up something today for 20 years down the road, we have no idea what the need will be. But because we can do this, and this trust would be recipient of the gifts we make to it, but it would be controlled by the denomination to direct the outflow of the income. And over the years, it is a gift that just keeps on giving. It's really based on the concept of Israel's distribution of land in the Old Testament. They were to receive, each of the tribes was to receive an allotment of land. It was to be theirs forever. It's not to change tribes. It might change hands, but not tribes. And so the land was to be used, and the proceeds then would be consumed by the Israelites and tithed off of. Mm-hmm. But the land itself was going to be there perpetually. And that's what an endowment does. Now, there are other gifts, programs, gift plans that the foundation can put into place for people that provide income to them during life, benefit to the denomination at the end of their lives, and the endowment trust could even be one of those that receives a unit trust, gifted annuities, whatever, but would go in, and the denomination would then annually decide how those funds would be distributed.
That's good. So to really think about it, we believe the first gift was to this particular endowment was $100. It was from, I think, Wilbur Worthington and his wife. So they gave that in 1981. The $100 is still there. Now, over the years, that $100 has earned interest. And maybe it's helpful for someone listening to realize if I give $100, if I give $1,000, if I give $1 million, that stays in the trust. And what happens is the interest off of that particular gift is what is dispersed to the national agencies to then go and use for ministry. And if you're like, let's say you're NAM or IM, depending on how things go, you're going to have an estimated this amount of money there. It's not going to fund your total program, but you do have a sense of it does help you with what you're trying to accomplish. Let me run one more thing by you, Mr. Bill. I think a lot about, that chapter in Proverbs chapter 22, where it says the rich rules over the poor and the borrower is servant to the lender. And in a way, it's reversing that, isn't it?
Yes. Well, I think probably if we just back up a little bit and say, if we look at life, individual life, I think there are about 5 stages that individuals go through. There's a stage of total dependence. When we're born, we depend on mom and daddy to feed us and clothe us, to clean us up, and so forth and so on. And then we enter a stage that's fairly long, that is a stage of struggle. It's a learning to deal with ourselves. We have to learn to control our emotions. We learn to control our wants and our expenditures and base them on what we have income for and those kind of things. And then there's hopefully that third sort of level that I call the glide. It's when you're not so pressed all the time. You have some options. You can do things that you couldn't do before, and you have greater options. And then there comes that gleaning period where you reap off of what you've already sown. And then obviously the end is death. Well, I think those same things happen to organizations and churches. There's a struggle. I look back and read the history of our international mission program, our home missions program, and my goodness, they struggled when they started. It was barely survival. And then it got bigger and there was more buy-in and response to it. And there for a few years, we even had a gliding period. But there's been some ups and downs, and organizations live longer than individuals do. So they have these cycles that go through their period of existence, and they may have multitudes of them. So individuals run into situations that have unexpected challenges, loss of a job, disability, sickness, death, early death. All those kind of things can happen that really disrupt. And we try to plan for some of those by buying life insurance, health insurance, and by saving for retirement. This is a plan that enables the organization to do some planning. A $5 million reserve fund would not be a large reserve fund for our denomination.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to be something that will subsidize the program.
Mm-hmm.
But that $100 that the Worthingtons gave in 1981, under normal circumstances, would have returned to this denominational work $200 in that period of time.
Mm-hmm.
From 1981 to 2021, just a normal return on an endowment trust would have returned to us $200, double their gift. But their gift is still there, working. Still there, working. And that's the whole idea. So we can double our money, we can triple our money, and we can have a program going on even though I'm not here to contribute to it anymore.
Right. Absolutely.
And some people could do this through, as I said a while ago, they could do it through other kinds of trust, living trust, unit trust, annuity trust, and receive benefit from it through their lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
But at their death, when they no longer need the principal, they can give it to the Lord's work, and it will continue giving to the Lord.
There's something that if you start putting your mind around that gift stays there. It continues to benefit ministries until the Lord returns. And there's nothing like that.
And no individual within the denomination has the right to change that program.
That's good.
It is not individually generated. And the director of the foundation, who would manage this, I'm assuming, would not have the power to control it.
So we call it an irrevocable trust, don't we?
Yes, that's exactly right.
So that's the other part that's valuable. Like, in the past, like universities use endowments quite a bit. But I dealt with this a little bit in my old life, is if it's set for a visual impairment professor, it's got to be a visual impairment professor. It can't be a BED professor or counseling professor. So that part of it is, this is what I've given it to this particular entity, and it sits there and it goes by the formula that was set up in the Together Way Trust. That's good.
It's the formula that's set up every year by the National Association to distribute the Together Way, because the Together Way Trust is going to benefit the Together Way.
Mm-hmm. Well, I just thank you all for your forethought of working on this. I know there's a lot of folks involved in all that, Mr. Bill, and we're going to talk to some of the rest of them, or some of the others that are, still with us, and we've got some quotes from all of them too. But I do appreciate the forethought you all had in just helping our people to be in a better spot, we'll say.
Well, one of the things that we were blessed with was an opportunity to be exposed to some of these ideas. Now, I can't speak for Brother Herman, but I can tell you Brother Bill did not know about these things until he was exposed to them. And having been exposed to them, I'm excited about the prospects for them, and the fact that a few of us can do a great deal when we join together. I've stood out in the rain a few times, and I know enough to get in out of the rain, but it amazes me that the God of heaven can water the earth with raindrops, and we can meet many of the needs of our denominational ministries through the drops of gifts into an endowment trust.
Excellent.
I'd like to challenge people to do that.
Well, we encourage them to do that. We will tell them our folks will use the resources well. This is a way that you can give in a special way that will benefit our people until the Lord returns. That's the nature of a trust. We've set a goal of 5 million. As inflation and time goes on, we would definitely add to that, so there's no limit on it. But our directors feel like that would end up being a good impact that they would feel in their ministries with the amount of money that comes out of that.
And what I like about it is the fact that it not only will go on and on, but it will benefit multiple ministries within our ranks.
Great. That's good. Good point. Well, thank you, my friend.
You are most welcome, Brother Eddie. God bless you in your work, and I trust that this program will take off, and it doesn't have to fly real quick, but if it grows
little by little,
yes,
it'll make a difference. Well, thank you, sir. And hey, thank you to all of you that are listening in or watching today. Please take this podcast, share it with your friends. You can show it to your church if you would like. We got an email today where someone asked for permission. You do not have to ask for permission. This is here for you to take, use, share, however you see fit. So like the Better Together podcast, if you will, on Facebook, subscribe at YouTube, and let's do everything we can to advance the cause of Christ, because we truly are better together.